At 5:46 in the morning, an elevated highway fell sideways through Kobe. Roughly 2,080 feet of expressway came down, claimed the lives of 6,434 people. Early estimates suggested full restoration could take about 3 years. Japan reopened the entire Kobe line in 623 days. But speed wasn't the real problem. The obvious answer was to rebuild the highway stronger, more concrete, more steel, stronger piers. Except the earthquake had exposed something strength alone couldn't solve, because the highway didn't just have to carry weight. It had to survive when the ground underneath it moved. So how do you rebuild a highway for the next earthquake, when simply making it stronger isn't enough? The answer was hidden in the way it failed. The famous photographs make the collapse look simple. The ground shook. The highway fell, but an elevated highway does not fail as one object. Loads move through a chain. The deck transfers force into the girders. The girders transfer force through bearings and connections. The supports carry those forces down through the piers and foundations. During an earthquake, that entire chain is moving. At Fukuei-Honmachi, the collapse section used a structural arrangement in which the bridge girders and piers were rigidly connected. During the earthquake, 17 reinforced concrete piers fractured around the middle of their columns. That detail changed the engineering question. If the whole highway had simply been too weak, the answer might have been easy. Use more concrete, use more steel, make everything bigger. But the replacement problem was more complicated than adding material. The earthquake had exposed how force moved through the structure, so the next question was harder. If the piers failed under earthquake movement, is the answer really just to build stronger piers? Before engineers could answer that, they had to deal with what was still standing. The earthquake left damaged structures hanging above roads and neighborhoods. Some had shifted or cracked badly, while still carrying heavy bridge decks. And after the main shock came the threat of aftershocks. The first job was not rebuilding, it was preventing another collapse. Temporary supports were placed beneath badly damaged girders. Critical structures were braced. Then crews began removing what could no longer be trusted. But this was not an empty site. There were streets below, buildings beside the expressway, utilities nearby, and damaged concrete and steel overhead. Engineers used controlled cutting methods, including diamond wire saws, to separate damaged concrete instead of smashing it unpredictably. Across the restoration program, 308 were reconstructed. Another 706 were repaired or strengthened. 183 bridge spans were removed. 182 were rebuilt. Hundreds more were repaired or reinforced. Every damaged component faced the same decision. Can this stay? Can this be strengthened? Or does this have to come out completely? And once the damaged structure was gone, the hardest question was waiting underneath it. What should replace it? Rebuilding even one pier required demolition, new reinforcement, formwork, concrete, curing, temporary erection frames, and finally, the lifting and alignment of new steel beams or girders. Across the recovery effort, Hanshin Expressway recorded roughly 93,000 tons of steel and 70,000 cubic meters of concrete. But rebuilding concrete was still only part of the answer. At Fukuei-Honmachi, engineers changed the structural relationship itself. They did not recreate the same rigid connection. The replacement separated the bridge girder from the pier. Between them, engineers installed seismic isolation bearings. That small layer changes the logic of the structure. Instead of forcing the deck and pier to respond as one rigid unit, the bearing allows controlled relative movement. The purpose is not to stop the earthquake, it is to reduce how much seismic force reaches critical structural components. And that creates another problem. If the deck is allowed to move, what stops it from moving too far? That question sits at the center of the rebuilt system. A highway deck cannot simply slide wherever it wants. Too little movement capacity, and force can concentrate back into the structure. Too much uncontrolled movement, and the deck can lose the support it depends on. So the system needs two things that appear to contradict each other: freedom to move, and limits on that movement. The goal was not simply to make the highway stronger. The deeper goal was to control how the highway moves when the ground underneath it does not. Across the restoration work, Hanshin Expressway installed thousands of seismic isolation bearings. It also installed thousands of fall prevention devices. The bearings help manage seismic movement and force transfer. The fall prevention systems help stop excessive displacement from becoming a dropped span. One system allows controlled motion. The other helps keep that motion from becoming separation. Now the engineering logic had changed. The ground will move. The supports will respond. The deck will develop inertia. The real question is where that movement goes, how much force reaches each component, and what prevents local damage from becoming total collapse. But strategy does not reopen a highway. Construction does, and the clock was still running. By the spring of 1995, restoration was moving on multiple fronts: demolition, pier strengthening, steel fabrication, reinforcement, girder erection, pavement, barriers, lighting, and road systems all had to advance in the right order. The sequence mattered. You cannot install a girder before the support is ready. You cannot finish the deck before the girder is aligned. You cannot pave a section that is still carrying reconstruction loads. And reopening one short segment does not reconnect the city if the next segment is still missing. So the project was not simply a race to work faster, it was a race to remove dependencies. While damaged structures were being demolished at one location, new pier reinforcement could already be going into another. Steel components could be fabricated away from the site, while concrete work continued below. As reconstructed supports became ready, new beams and girders could move into position. Then came deck work, road equipment, barriers, pavement, inspection. Only after the structural chain was complete could traffic return. By September 1995, new steel beams and girders were already being erected on reconstructed and strengthened supports. Sections began reopening before the entire route was finished. Each reopening shortened the missing link. Another section returned in February 1996. More followed through the summer. The remaining closure kept shrinking. Finally, on September 30th, 1996, the last missing connection was restored. The Kobe line was whole again, 623 days after the earthquake. But look closely at what had actually been restored. It was not simply the old highway returned to its old position. At critical damaged locations, the structural relationships had changed. Piers changed. Girders changed. Connections changed. Bearings changed. Fall prevention systems changed. And that raises one last question. What about the structures that never collapsed? Because failure creates a dangerous illusion. The broken structure gets all the attention. It blocks the road. It becomes the photograph everyone remembers. But the structures that remain standing can contain the more difficult question. They survived this earthquake. Does that mean they are safe for the next one? After Kobe, Hanshin Expressway continued seismic strengthening across its network. Particular attention went to preventing bridge collapse and span loss in structures built under older standards. Columns and support conditions could be strengthened, and devices added to reduce the risk of girders leaving their supports. The lesson from the collapse did not remain inside one 635-meter section. It spread into the surviving system. And that is what makes the 623-day reconstruction more than a repair story. The highway that fell was only the visible failure. The larger engineering task was deciding what that failure meant for everything still standing. 623 days after the earthquake, the Kobe line was open again. But the real achievement was not putting the old highway back where it had been. At critical locations, the relationship between the deck, bearings, piers, and fall prevention systems had changed. That answers the question from the beginning. How do you rebuild fast without rebuilding the same failure? You change the part of the system the failure exposed, then carry that lesson into the structures that never fell. Because recovery is not recreating the past. It is restoring the system, without restoring the weakness that brought it down.